Wouldn't it be great if we could design the world around us with our thoughts? What if I told you that research shows we can? What we constantly think about, we become. Back in 1937, American self-help author Napoleon Hill, he published his book Think and Grow Rich, which is about personal development and self-improvement. Now, Hill personally analyzed hundreds of successful men, discovering they all had one thing in common. It was their thinking. All of these men changed the way of which they processed information while learning to control their thoughts. They all believed that they could achieve their goal before they actually achieved it. Pretty cool, huh? Well, research shows that our thoughts can control the outcome of our future. So today, I'm going to talk about changing the way we think and how it can impact the world around us. First, I'm going to briefly discuss how we can change our thinking habits. Then, we'll talk about what happens within our brain when we do change the way we think. And finally, we will examine how changing the way we think impacts our reality. There have been countless studies conducted on the human brain, our thinking patterns, and how we can change them. Well, Cornell University cognitive neuroscientist Nathan Spring has studied human habits and thinking patterns most of his adult life. And according to a study conducted by him, people are capable of changing the way they think through simple cognitive behavioral therapy exercises. The theory behind the cognitive behavioral therapy exercises is repetition. The more we repeat something, the more likely it is we will retain it. So repetition of information proves to be the most successful way to change our thinking. American psychiatrist Aaron T. Beck, he is the developer of cognitive therapy. And he has spent the better half of his life studying how people may change the way they think. Back in the 1960s, Beck outlined his approach in his book, Depression, Causes, and Treatment. And then he later expanded his focus to include anxiety disorders. It proved to be so effective that his approach has become the #1 way of which therapists today treat these disorders. So back to repetition, even to treat anxiety disorders and depression. It's rewiring the way we think and retraining our brains. People began also using Beck's research to target thoughts and behavior and even individual goals. So as we just talked about how changing the way we think impacts our mental health, well, researchers have even taken these studies to even further degree brain scans. They wanted to see the physical changes that took place whenever we did exercises, like the cognitive behavioral therapy, the repetition, what actually happens within our brain. Well, our brain is constantly changing and rewiring the way it works. It's always analyzing and downloading. And when it does that, what happens is it creates neural pathways. So whenever we continue to repeat certain behaviors, a neural pathway is created, which links information. So our brain is like this map with billions of roadways intertwining and connecting with each other. And every time we think something, like something specific, certain roadways light up. And when we introduce new information, new neural pathways are created. And the same goes like whenever we don't use specific roadways or neural pathways, they're destroyed. So all of these initiate physical changes within our brain. So repetition, again, is key. And research shows that at the age of 25, our brain's automatic capability to create these new neural pathways stops. So that leaves us having to manually build new ones, right? Not a problem. because everyone has the ability to learn and grow by changing the way we think. As our thinking changes, so does the physical appearance of our brains. So now that we've talked about some of the changes taking place within us, let us discuss changing the way we think, how it can manifest into our physical world. So everything around us, even with us being included, is made up of energy and frequencies. Think of our mind as the control center. We attract the energy of which frequency we are tuned into. Have you ever heard the saying, like attracts like? Well, that's where it comes from. Because what you're thinking, you attract. Or how about the phrase guilty by association? Same thing. So Amy Morin, a psychotherapist and an international best-selling author, she writes about the way we think directly influences how we feel and behave. So, for instance, if we think we're a failure, then we feel like a failure. Therefore, we behave as failures. Pretty powerful stuff, huh? So once we think about who we are, or once we have put that label on ourselves as to who or what we are in our mind, our brain begins to search for evidence that will reinforce our belief. So back to if we think we are a failure, now here's the failure. So we think we are a failure. Naturally in life, we will make mistakes. But now, because we have this belief, neural pathways are connecting our mistakes as evidence that we are a failure. That's how powerful our mind is. So now we are processing each mistake as if it is confirmation of that belief. What about Earl Nightingale's saying, "We become what we think about"? Well, this is where it derives from. We manifest our reality whether we believe it or not, whether we want to accept it or not. If we believe we are a failure, then that's what our life is going to reflect in our reality. But if we believe we are going to be successful or graduate college or successfully complete my public speaking course, then that's exactly what is going to happen. Because our thoughts, they determine our future. For example, when a child is being raised, told they will be successful, they will become anything they want, they can be rich or happy, or they can have nice cars, whatever it is, the child's brain is creating neural pathways, roadmaps, or roadways, and will begin to search for confirmation of these thoughts. So A to B to C. The same goes for a child who is raised hearing the complete opposite. Oh, life is so hard. We never have enough money to pay bills. You're going to work the rest of your life and never have anything. These thoughts are also creating neural pathways as well. Since we are made of energy and are operating on different frequencies, now we are subconsciously manifesting our thoughts into our reality. Today, we briefly talked about how to change our thinking habits, what happens within our brain when we do change our thinking, and how changing the way we think really impacts our reality. So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to look at the life that surrounds you. Whether you like it or not, it is a direct reflection of your thoughts. Rather than blaming your current circumstances on a lack of talent, consider your thoughts. What are you thinking? What do you believe to be true about yourself? Then identify the labels that you have assigned to yourself and start removing them one by one. Get rid of them. It is limiting your potential and who you are. There is power within our thinking. It's time to start taking advantage of the natural resource given to us at birth, our thoughts. Thank you for allowing me to speak.